hops. We're going to be talking about focusing your momentum in the hemp industry. That's part one. And the second one is going to be attracting hemp investors. So hopefully you have your notes. For those of you that are going to be watching online, please email us for the PDF. You can click right there on our website. We're going to be talking about how to focus your momentum so things take place easily for you in the industry. For those of you that have come from different business backgrounds, you know that hemp, the entire industry has more momentum than other industries in different types of businesses. So if you go to an accounting event, you will not find the kind of collaboration that is here at this event. And you're going to find also that people want to help each other on a consistent basis. So for instance, when you have a lot of momentum, when you're at a hotel and you're just sitting there having a meeting, somebody will ask you what you're doing, and the very need that you're looking to solve, that person will solve it for you. That's what momentum's all about. So we're going to talk about not how to create momentum. Actually, this is a topic we've been given for over 10 years about how to create momentum in different business industries. You don't need momentum in the hemp industry. It has enough. You just need to know what to do with it. So we're going to be talking about how to actually focus that and accomplish the results that you're looking to accomplish. So just a little bit about what we do. I'm one of the co-founders for the Hemp Business Advisors. We provide motivational speaking. We do different courses, some workshops. We help people get ready for investors because, as you know, in the hemp industry, it is the easiest industry in the world to get investors. They're everywhere. And if you are looking for funding and you haven't found the right investor yet, you need to talk to us because we have had investment company after investment company come to us and ask us to please help them to get the right businesses to invest in. So as long as you have 7 of the criteria done, you will get invested easily. So let's talk about 3 different points here on your notes. You're gonna find that that you have them right here. On one side is a flyer, the other side is the notes. It should be focusing your momentum in the hemp industry. B, will you go over there and hit the little screen there and hit the volume up on the mic because I turned it back down. So law of momentum, what does it look like? Industry progression and expansion indicators. Those are 3 things we're going to talk about. So there in your notes, what's the definition and description of momentum? It's a natural law. Momentum is a natural law, just like gravity. If I drop this remote point, it's going to go down. If you understand what the law of momentum means, wherever you go in hemp, you will find the right people. So that's what momentum is. It can be utilized by any industry at any time, by any person in any culture. If you have momentum in hemp, you should be able to have momentum in hemp if you went and visited China or Africa. Not Antarctica, but anywhere else, you should be able to have that same amount of momentum. For instance, whenever I fly, most times when I fly Delta Airlines, I get a client somewhere on the plane. It happens on a consistent basis. I love Delta Airlines. I grew up in Atlanta. I'm a Coca-Cola drinker, and I get business on Delta flights. It's because I have momentum on Delta. Where is your momentum in the hemp industry? And when somebody says to me, David, I love hemp, I'm like, I do too. We could talk about it all night long. And I said, what do you love to do? Oh, everything. Okay, what do you mean by everything? Oh, no, I want to develop a soil company, and then I want to go into genetics, and then I want to do seedlings, and then I want to create, and they tell me 50 things they want to do. They will never be successful. Because momentum is all about focus. And what's the one thing you want to do is how you create all of your momentum behind that, and then it happens easily and quickly and gets funded. Now, what is momentum? How do you create it? Here's what it is. It's called focus. It's through the channeling of your personal energy toward an outcome that is directly aligned with your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. So here's the point. Half the people in the hemp industry still don't know what they're doing yet. They're dabbling, right? They're saying, well, what are you doing? Oh, I might want to do that too. Okay, that's not how you create momentum. You create momentum by saying this. This is the one thing I want to do, and I'm really clear. So when I hear somebody says, I want to be an extractor, I'm like, great. And what else? Oh, I want a puppy grooming business alongside of the side. I already know they're not going to be successful. The most successful people in the world decide the one thing they're going to do in hemp, and then they stick to that and make that successful. So if you're trying to do everything from soil all the way to the sale of it, Isolate and distillate, you're probably going to really struggle as a generalist, especially since there's 49,999 other uses, right? You've heard this, there's 50,000 uses for hemp. So therefore, you need to pick a couple things you want to do and create momentum with it. So when you get up in the morning, what's your first thought? What's the emotion that you have about hemp? 2 years ago, I had never even heard the word hemp. I remember, we're from Fort Collins, our team is. We have our team members here, Carrie Cox in the back, and then Michaela in the front. And here's what happened. I was sitting at a brewery because there's over 30 microbreweries in Fort Collins, so we always do business over beer. If you don't like beer, don't come to Fort Collins. You won't be able to connect with the people there. And I was talking with a gentleman. He said, David, I just got hired as a director of sales for a hemp company. And I said, what's hemp? And he kind of looked at me funny, and I said, I've never heard that word. And he told me about it for 2 hours. And by the time he was done, I was so excited, I could barely sleep. And I said, I don't know what this hemp stuff's all about, but I am called into it. I am emotionally connected with it. And the next thing you know, that's all I think, eat, breathe, sleep is all about hemp. And so do some of you. That's why you're here. You don't drive this far away like we did unless you're really serious about hemp. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Right now, when you have a lot of momentum, you're the one and only person, the one and only company in the whole world of what you're doing. If you develop a new type of extraction that uses water, olive oil, and electricity that nobody's ever heard of before, you're the one and only until somebody else develops just something like that in a couple of years from now. So remember, you're a one and only today until somebody else comes up with your same idea tomorrow. So you got to patent your one and only. So I can say right now today that we are the one and only company in U.S. history that's only been invited, the only one and only, into a bank-sanctioned event that talked about creating momentum for the cannabis industry, and they marketed it. Okay, that's never happened. Look, research we did. We looked across all the banks in U.S. history. Nobody's ever spoken a bank on cannabis. So therefore, we're the one and only until, guess what? Another bank invites somebody else to speak on cannabis. I'm like, we're the second only now. So one and only means this. You know that what you're doing is so unique that it has its own momentum. So what are you doing that's more unique than everyone else? Now, how do you know whether or not you have momentum currently in the hemp industry? So there's 50,000 uses, right? And how many people right now are making hemp rope for the Navy? I'd like to see your hands. That's right, you're not in the room, because I met him. I said, what do you want to do with hemp? And he says, I want to make ropes for the Navy, for hemp ropes. And I said, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. Please inform me. Why is hemp rope so important? He says, do you know the number of sailors that die every year from the ropes? And I said, I didn't know anybody died from rope unless they hung themselves with it. So he said, here's what happens. The nylon ropes that are huge, when they snap, it comes back onto the ship and kills numerous sailors every single year around the globe. And he said, guess what? Hemp ropes snap and they fall into the water. I want to save lives with hemp. Guess what? That's a one and only, isn't it? Every single one of you is a one and only with your own momentum. The way you do it, nobody can copy you in it. So you're saying, yeah, but I'm just another extractor. No, there's no such thing as just another extractor. Do it in a unique way. So how do you know you have momentum? Well, here's what it looks like. You have to know what the protocols are. Now, how many of you came from another industry, like we were executive coaches in another industry? How many of you came from another business and then came into hemp? Let me see your hands. Okay, good. Good. For those of you that said, I've been all about cannabis my whole life, you're not going to know some of these protocols. These are business protocols that right now the industry doesn't know many things about. So here's what it is. If you have a lot of momentum in the hemp industry right now, here's what is true about you and your company. Here's number one. The amount of your revenue earned is exponential. Have you seen what some of the farmers have made last year? I'll never forget, we were talking with a company, we got a contract in Portland, we were there, and we said, so how was your crop last year? They said, well, we only dabbled, we only planted 10 acres. I said, what was your net profit? Oh, $80,000 per acre. Okay, go talk to a normal farmer that raises corn, who made $350 for his acre and tell him he could have made $80,000 net profit. They're going to look at you like, yo, what kind of scam is this, right? So how do you know you have momentum in the hemp industry? Number one, it's easy to make money. If you're having a difficult time with your revenue, you might be in the wrong industry. Number two, it's easy to gain investment funds because investors bump into you easily. This just happened to our company over the last 6 months, but really about 3 weeks ago. In 1 week's time, we had 3 different investment companies find us on Alignable and on Meetup and on an email through our website and ask us to please give them hemp-based companies that they can invest in. They're tired of pre-qualifying the wrong people. It's easy. It should be easy to get investments. If you think it's difficult to find the right investment company, we have 5, and we're going to add probably 4 or 5 more because they just can't find the right company to invest in, which is probably some of you in the room. Now, this next one, the quality of partnerships happens easily as well. Isn't it great when you bump into somebody and you just kind of start talking and you talk to the person and what they have to offer is what you need? Isn't that awesome? And listen, I know you got to do good business. You got to sign your mutual NDAs. We have ours too, right? Everybody signs everybody's NDAs. That's good. Okay, and then you sign the contract. That's good. But the bottom line is, once you shake that person's hand and you look them in the eye and you make them a promise, for some of us, if that's the way we were raised, that's how you form a partnership. Then you do the signatures. If I can't look you in the eyes and make you a promise that I can keep, I'm the wrong person to be a partner for you. So if you're saying, I've got all these needs and I can't seem to find the right person, the right people, the right companies, that means you probably don't have enough momentum in the industry because you should be able to find them or they even find you easily. Next one, the ease of business growth. So you say, David, we don't even have, what is an SOP? It's a standard operating procedure. It's called an employee manual, contract. A lot of people don't have those. You know why? They're making too much money. Have you seen how busy people are? And don't try to ask a farmer to sit down and have a cup of coffee in, June 1st. Hey, why not? It's all about the planting. So guess what happens? People are in a business growth right now in an exponential curve that they don't even know sometimes how to even cope with all of the opportunities. That's what momentum looks like. And lastly, the amount of problems that are solved easily and quickly in the industry. Now, for those of you that just heard Sean Covey before me, and then also Ali Consulting before that, that's all about solving problems. Problems are easy to solve when somebody comes and says to you, hi, I see you have a problem, can I help you solve it? And isn't it awesome when it's for free? Did you know that Sean's model of costings is many times he won't cost you a single cent until after he saves you money and he makes money on the back end? That's how convinced he is in what he provides. Now, this momentum doesn't happen by accident. This is a movement. Hemp is not an industry, it's a movement. If you've studied anything about the intricacies of a movement, it means that you can literally be swept into a movement that's bigger than what you could possibly imagine. One of the passions that I have is Africa. I lived in South Africa for 7 years, went back another 8 years. For 15 years of my life, I focused on the continent of Africa. Wasn't it hilarious then? A gentleman from Connecticut about 3 months ago somehow found us online, watched a couple of my videos, called me up and said, David, I want you to help me to get funding for Africa for hemp. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, I have exclusivity over the country of Lesotho, and I've got 5 contracts to put in 25 acres per contract. And by the way, the oil's already been sold to Canada. I just need some help with the funds. And I said, well, that's ironic because I met with the king of Lesotho 5 years ago. See, that's the kind of momentum that I'm talking about. It should happen easily with your passion for finding the right people. It's not by accident you're here. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here in Grand Junction for such a time as this. You're called into the industry. Therefore, accept your call and don't ever slow down in it, because you're a part of the movement that may never happen in our lifetime ever again in U.S. history or the globe. Now, protocols, however, you don't walk up to somebody and say, hi, my name's David, thank you for following business protocols that we all know about. What are protocols? They're rules, but look what kind of rules. They're unwritten, unspoken, and expected. That's what a protocol is. For those of you that came outside of the cannabis industry, when I say cannabis, I'm talking about marijuana and hemp, okay? You're outside there and you do business. Which name?
Ryan.
Thank you. Ryan. If Ryan gives me a business card, we have a policy, unless there's some major project that we're working on, but typically, that business card, in my mind, I have 24 hours before it explodes and it's now pointless because he won't remember me. It's a protocol I have. It's if you give me a business card, I'm going to connect with him and I'm going to actually email him back. And if he came from business, he expects that from me. However, in hemp, I have met about 80% of the people that have not come from a business background. They don't know that. They're running like crazy. And guess what happens? They have a big bulge in their pocket. It's not money, it's business cards. And they haven't had time to sit down and go through all of it. And all of a sudden I get a business card and a person contacts me through email, and guess what they do? They say, hey, David, it was so great to meet you at NOCO Hemp Expo in March. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there were 10,000 people there. I can't for the life of me remember who that person was. But guess what I think in my mind? And now listen, as a business person, if you don't contact me in 24 hours, one of my protocols is you're probably not serious about getting funding with us. It's just my protocol. It's unwritten, unspoken, but I expect it. So if you contact me in a week from now, I'm probably really not very interested because you're not serious. That's a protocol that most business people have. If you meet somebody from Washington, D.C. or New York City and you give them a card, they give you a card and you don't get back with them, sometimes within hours, they're not interested in you. So in the hemp industry, guess what happens? There's all these business people now flooding into the industry. Some of them don't care about you or anyone else. They're just trying to make a lot of money, right? Where hopefully those people will go somewhere else. But then there's some people that love business. They love hemp. They want to help people. They have a business mindset that has protocols that you don't know about. So for those of you that are really have been in hemp for a long period of time, please use urgency with business people or they lose respect for you and they'll never tell you about it because they expect you to know. That's what a protocol is. So it's all about lead time. Now, these are the rules of business gained by three things: research, training, and experience. This is awesome, isn't it? How many people have you met in hemp that started last month? Isn't that awesome? I mean, what a great industry. You're learning stuff every single day. I'll never forget, Artie connected me with a very interesting gentleman. He was an extractor. Uncle won a lot of money and came over and said, yeah, listen, I made $2 million net profit on my first month of being an extractor. I created my own extraction unit. I said, great. I said, can I have your business card? And he says, well, I don't have one. I said, what do you mean you don't have one? You have to have a business card. That shows good. As a business person, you always have a business card. If you don't have a business card and you came here, I probably am going to think, is this person really in business? You know, and then guess what happens then? I said, well, give me your email address. And his email address didn't even have a company name. And I said, why doesn't this have a company name? Do you know what he said? I don't have a company. I said, what'd you do with the $2 million? He said, I put it in my own personal account. And I said, oh, I do not want to do business with this person. And we did it. Because why? These are business protocols. So if you want to be in hemp long term, you have to follow business protocols or you won't be taken seriously. I can't partner with somebody who doesn't have a business card and doesn't have a business, because then I am liable for what I do with that person. So, this is not typically found in the hemp industry yet. Watch what's going to happen over the next 24 to 48 months. See what's going to happen. You're going to find that the industry is going to grow up very, very quickly. So in January this year, I went to numerous industry leaders and I asked them a very provocative question. And I said, in the next 24 months, now that hemp is legal, how many businesses that are in existence today, how many of those do you believe will still be here? You know what they said? We believe that 50 to 90% of the hemp businesses that are currently open today in January 2019 will be shutting their doors in the next 24 months. And you've met them, you've seen them, they're fly-by-nights. They opened and they closed. You heard just a couple of speakers ago of the extraction lab that blew up in Denver. That's because there wasn't, SOPs that were being followed. So, This is going to be taken. Now, here's the exciting part. The industry is progressing. Even though it's at a lightning speed, it's progressing in the right direction. Here's the first part. Number one, I'm sure you've heard of this, that there was a gentleman who's been working on an extraction project for the last 8 years. He's kept it extremely hush-hush. He used Tesla's information and shocks hemp plants. And what it is, it turns them into dust. And they found brand new cannabinoids that nobody's ever discovered yet because it activated the plant. That is exciting. I mean, come on. In the old days, it was what? Just CO2 extraction, right? Now what do you got? You got people shocking plants. Now you got water, and you got vapor, and you got olive oil. You have no idea in 24 months. Nobody does. What's about to happen in the industry? It is so exciting. This is a great time to be alive. Number two, if you were at NOCO Hemp Expo, and by the way, that is the largest symposium of hemp-based businesses in the globe currently, took place right here in Denver, Colorado. Had over 10,000 people from all over the world to come to that event. It was incredible. But guess what happened on the Investors Forum? The largest hedge fund in the world made the decision right before, a week before they came to NOCO Hemp Expo this year, and said, we're putting $1 trillion into the hemp industry. Okay, this is an industry that's got more money than it knows what to do with. And if you ever wanted to really make an impact in the world, this is the time to do it. And this is the most exciting one, is the Facebook win that the Hemp Business Advisors got. How many of you have ever had any challenges with Facebook? Or are we the only ones? Okay, good. Okay, what we're hearing in the marketplace is that there's a major stigma against Facebook because of their policies, which are so unclear. And right now, by the way, there's even a lawsuit that's now taking place. Now, here's the problem. If you were selling CBD products, okay, and you go online and you try to force Facebook to do it your way, you're probably going to lose, right? So here's the question. How many times have you tried, and how much of your temper have you lost? Because when you have a lot of momentum, guess what happens? You continually try again and again until you find the right person, and then it happens easily. So I want to prove to you what this looks like, because we were denied as the Hemp Business Advisors for having a hemp event. So here's what happened. This happened with, sorry about that, it's really tiny. Here's what it looks like. We first sent our first hemp event, and they said, no, we're not going to let you do this. So David Wilkinson, she went back and she wrote a really nice letter and said, no, we're not doing anything illegally. And they came back and said, oh, yes, you are. And she said, no, what can, now look, you can't see this, but right there it says, what can we do to fix the problem? Instead of blaming Facebook, she asked 3 different ways how we can fix this, and guess what? We beat Facebook. They said yes. Right there, if you can see that, it says, you are approved. Listen, this is a huge hemp win. That's what you want to see, and you're going to see it over and over and over again, that people who don't lose their temper, just stay calm and say, we're going to do what's right because we know what we're doing is going to help the world. That's the kind of momentum that you want to have. And that happened in April 18th of this year. All right, so how do you know you're expanding with your momentum correctly? Well, let's take a look at some of these questions. How many people are currently asking for your product service, and where are they located? Okay, all of us believe in marketing and sales. You have to do that, okay? But here's what I know. If you're spending 100% of your time marketing and selling, and nobody's contacting you, you might not have momentum with your company. It should be that when you wake up in the morning, you got a couple of emails that are saying, hey, so-and-so told me about you. Hey, I saw your website. Hey, I found you on social media. Can we talk? That means you have some momentum. Now, if, let's say you're, let's say you're a CBD product company, and you sold 100 products last month, and 90% of them came from Sarasota, Florida, I would encourage you to move there. Right? Because it means what? That your products have connected with a certain area. So many times people don't understand that momentum isn't just tied to who you are and what you're doing, but it's tied to a location. In fact, I know people right now from Hawaii and from New York City that are moving here in September because they said we're giving up on these two states. They're not working with our hemp-based companies, and we're moving to Colorado. I met people yesterday who moved from Washington State. I met people from Oregon that have moved here. You know why? Because Colorado has momentum when it comes to hemp. So make sure that the right people are asking what you're doing. Now, here's an important one. Last year, if you talked to a farmer and you said to them in Colorado, how many acres of hemp you're growing? I'm growing 10. Great. How are you going to harvest it? Oh no, I've got a harvester that's coming on this date. Great. And how did that go? Well, we shook hands on it. And we shook hands. And what happened with that? Oh no, the harvester got so backed up he couldn't make it. My crop went hot and I lost everything. Do you know how many farmers we talked to about that very thing? Now listen, that can happen in 2018. That cannot happen in 2019. There's something you need to have called a contract. A contract proves that when you did the deal and you shook the hand and he signed on it, this is what he said. If I don't deliver on the day I will pay you the full amount of what your crop is. There needs to be some kind of what? Insurance. Some kind of assurance. If the person is going to do what they say, and that's called your supply chain. So when somebody comes along and says, hey, I believe I got a great idea I should be invested in. Great. How many contracts do you have through your entire supply chain? And if they don't have any signed contracts, how is the investor going to get paid at the end? Because if you're like a normal entrepreneur, it's all based on hope in the beginning, isn't it? I hope this works. I believe it's going to work. Well, let's see how the crop goes this year. Next, how much, and this is an important one. All the time we run into companies that say this. We want to exponentially grow. We're ready to go national. We want a national sales strategy. Or we want to grow our product base. Or we want to grow 50,000 acres of hemp next year. And they've got all these grand schemes. And we ask this question. Okay, how did you do last year? Well, obviously, if you know anything about hemp, last couple of years was 25,000 acres of hemp throughout the whole U.S., right? We had to import $60 million worth of hemp. Really smart on that one. And then what happened this year? You got Montana growing more hemp in 1 year than the whole U.S. the last couple of years put together. So here's what we got. How much of your net profit has been allocated to create your expansion strategy of savings? So Sean just talked about some about your net profit. So let's say you're making $1 million a month right now, and you're spending $2 million a month right now. When it's time to expand, and we say, well, where is the capital for your expansion strategy? If you don't have any capital left, guess what happens? Somebody else is going to surpass you with your growth. So make sure, whatever you do, don't spend 100% of everything that's coming in, because when it's time to expand, you need to have the capital to expand, because you need to become number one in the marketplace, or someone else will. And it's getting really competitive really quickly. So here's the fill-ins. The 3 previous questions are based upon something that's going to absolutely obliterate CBD sales, and you already know this for those of you that study economics. The law of supply and demand. What is our supply right now? This much. What's our demand? Huge. Why? The opioid crisis, isn't it? Anxiety crisis, insomnia crisis. People are so sick of taking pills. So right now you got people taking CBD that's not even been tested by any lab, right? They're fed up with it. So the demand is huge. But what happens when you have, I don't know, an excess of CBD oil? And I'm talking about massive container-fulls of isolate, distillate, crude. And what happens when now all of a sudden we have enough tinctures to sell people for the next 10 years? What's going to happen to the price? It's going to plummet. And that's going to happen in the next 24 months. The need's going to exponentially grow, but our supply is going to be massive. Because right now you already know it. What happens when Big Pharma comes in and starts growing a couple million acres of the stuff? Then we're going to be in a whole different situation. All right, number 2 is the liability protection. Okay, if you were at the creating momentum for the cannabis industry in Greeley, here's what you would have heard. The amount of lawsuits and the creativity of the lawsuits that are going to happen over the next 24 months are going to be case studies for years. It's going to be so awesome to see the kind of case studies that we're going to see about people taking CBD capsules and people suing each other. It's going to be an awesome time to be alive about lawsuits. Hey, remember the woman who spilled hot coffee on her crotch? And then you remember she sued McDonald's and won? Remember that? And now every single cup says, careful, content's hot. When you pour hot coffee and it says that, remember, some of you are too young or old for that. Okay, so here's what you're going to find. You're going to find the liability is going to go through the roof. You're going to see the most creative lawsuits, and you're going to hear them right out of Denver News. It's going to be awesome. Make sure you have something recording, because it's going to be fun. All right, and then lastly, this is an important one, business competency. You're going to find so many people going out of business, not because they don't have enough momentum, because they don't know what to do with it. Business competency means that when you make a ton of money, you know where it's supposed to go. Because once the IRS figures out about taxes, you talk about people getting hit with a huge tax bill in the end. I'm so glad there's Sean Covey to help us to save a lot of those taxes. So whatever you do, if you're not great in business, but you know what you're doing in the hemp industry, please get either the right business partner or hire the right coach or whatever you want to do. But make sure you have good competency, because you know what? You'll be out of business before you know it. And we're seeing lots of people go under. So just because you have a lot of passion doesn't mean you're a good business person. And just because you're a great business person without passion, you shouldn't be in the room. This is a room filled with passionate people about hemp. All right. So, here's some of the questions. What is the next step with you and your momentum? 10 years from now, if you look back on today, what would you tell yourself to do? 10 years from now, you're looking back on today and you say, man, I remember I was at the Hemp and Hops conference. That's when I made the decision. Now, for some of you that were like me for the first few months, you kind of were riding both sides of the fence. You're like, should I get it? There's a lot of crazy people in hemp, you know? Should I get in it? Should I jump in with both feet? Should I stay in normal business? Should I be a normal person? Should I really get in with everything? And should I be? If you haven't made up your mind, I'm surprised you're here. This is in the middle of nowhere. So you're here in Hemp and Hops because hopefully you're committed. You are committed to do something. So what's the next step? For those of you that are riding the fence, here's my suggestion to you. If you're going to get completely out of hemp and never come back again. But if you're going to get into it, study it, research it, inundate yourself, grow your own plant in your own backyard, be a part of the movement, and then watch what happens. Because you can't get momentum if you aren't completely committed. That's your next step. For those of you that are all in, here's your next step. How long do you want to be in the industry, and what's the impact that you want to make? Because some of you right now say, I'm dabbling. I'm all in, but I'm dabbling. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. Figure it out quick. Figure it out quick. Because just like the gentleman I just shared about the hemp rope, there's going to be 49,999 other industries that are going to start up because of this, and your passion has room today. It might be taken tomorrow. Number 3, whatever you do, make sure you have the correct investors invested personally in your company. One of our value systems, we do not partner with people we don't believe in, and we don't partner with investment companies that are trying to get in to make money. Now let me say that again. We partner with people that say this: we are 100% in as a company, and we're doing this for the lifetime until we're passing away. We're gonna be there. We're gonna have our tombstone in the center of the hemp field. Okay, that's the kind of people we want to do, right? And then on the investor side, this is what the investors are saying, because we're not letting any investors work with us. Here's what they say: we love the cannabis space. We love hemp. And when you find the right companies for us, we'll invest in them because we want to believe in the people that you find that are the correct ones. They're looking for partnerships, not just a transaction. So if you've ever been burned by an investor, I guarantee it probably was somebody with impure motives and somebody that did not care about the industry or you. There's your next steps. Now, you need to decide, therefore, what do you want to do, create momentum, gain the necessary investments to go to the next level. Now, what that looks like, how many of you right now either are looking for investments or know someone in the hemp industry that needs an investment right now? Can I see your hands? How many? Okay, good. what we have found is 9 out of 10 people are looking for an investor right now. You know what we found? 9 out of the 10 people that are looking for the investments, 100% of those people don't have a clue what the investment companies are looking for. So it's kind of like this, closing your eyes, taking a bow and arrow, shooting the arrow in the wall, getting paint, running to the wall, painting a bullseye on the wall, saying, hey, I hit a bullseye! That doesn't work with investment companies, does it? Do you know what their 7 criteria are that they're looking for? No. You know why? Investors aren't telling people what those are, but they've told us what they are. If you follow their 7 steps, guess what they're going to say? Yes. Now, you can't come with a wing and a prayer, right? You can't come with a brand new idea and you don't have a company and you think because I have a great idea I can get invested. It doesn't work that way. You have to bring something to the table. So either your business has been going for a while, or you have somebody to sign a guarantor, or you got some assets, but it can't just be a great idea. And guess what people think in the hemp industry? I have a brilliant idea nobody's ever thought about, therefore I think I deserve the money. Have you heard that? Hey, come on, you talk to these people. It's hilarious, isn't it? So therefore, make sure that you know what you're doing. Well, we have an investors event. We only have room for 25 companies. If you believe that you are ready to get funded, then we have a system that we bring you through, and it's going to be in Loveland, Colorado. If you turn over this right here, your notes, if you turn that over right there, there's all the information. It's really simple. So it's a process we take you through. If you're an investor in the room and you care about the hemp industry, please come and talk to us afterwards. So what that does is it helps people to get the funding who are willing and able to do whatever it takes to get the money to help their company. So if you really love your customers and you really know that your products, your services are unique and you can really make a difference, you deserve to get funded. So let's put a package together for the correct investment company that says, we're so thankful that we found you. We'd love to help you for a lifetime of growing your business. That's what you want. And by the way, not every deal is about 80% equity, is it? All right. So a couple thank yous, and we're going to take questions and answers. I want to thank our team, Harry Cox in the back, Michaela Wilkinson in the front. Thank you so much for all that you do for our company as co-founders. And lastly, Katie and Jessica with Hemp and Hops, because this is a great event. All right, what are some questions that you have? Hopefully you're thinking a little bit differently. The next topic after this is all about investments. It's about how to attract hemp investors. So I'm going to keep those questions after that. But what questions do you have about momentum? Yes, ma'am. Or momentum in whatever you're about to say.
Well, okay. I am finishing a master's in teaching and learning and want to create a hemp everything curriculum that's accredited in colleges. I've been trying to find grants, investors, or anything who would specify this curriculum, give money for this curriculum. Can't find it. Have you heard of anything?
Artie?
Yeah?
All right, talk to Artie afterwards. Artie knows just about everyone in the industry. All right, any other questions or comments? How many of you are thinking differently than when you walked in here a half an hour ago? Everybody think, okay, think different. What is the major challenge then in the room about revenue? About getting an investor? Is that the #1 challenge? It is, isn't it? Except for the people that have gotten their accounts closed by a bank. I can't think of another one that's higher than that than getting the funding to do everything you're supposed to do. Okay, good. Any other comments or questions? Good? Very good. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then we're going to go on to the next part, which is going to be attracting hemp investors. And we're going to talk about how to do that easily and quickly. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple minutes.